Hi, my name's Matt, and this is the Pressure Proof Creative podcast, the show where world-class creatives come together to drop the mask, burn the bullshit, and get real about the pressures, the pains, and monumental uncertainty of generating genius on demand. Like, subscribe, and comment to show your support. Hey, John, it's really good to have you on the podcast today. Great to see you.
No, thanks for having me. Good to see you too.
Thank you very much. Well, I think let's just crack on. So, before we do begin, let's just for anyone who doesn't know, can you have a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, crikey, I've been in the ad industry now for over 40 years. I started in a studio, Wiltshire Studios, back in '79. I was an illustrator. Um, my style was what they used to call hyper real. So I illustrated on photographic paper with retouching dye.
Nice.
And my father, the same, as it happens, he taught me how to do that. And it was what I called ever since that a new possible, thinking of different ways to execute your concepts or ideas, which was just fascinating in those days when everything was pretty much analog, obviously. I also liked to work as close to creatives as I could. So after a few years, I started going and getting briefs direct from creatives in agencies, which really helped with removing unnecessary information loss.
Yeah.
In that sense. And yeah, I mean, skipping forward a few years, I started quite a few production companies, for global production companies, 7 worldwide, for 7 worldwide, which was based in Soho, obviously. And we then started up internal facilities for M&C Saatchi. Did some work with Procter and Gamble, helping them decouple production. That was quite an early stage for that sort of activity back then. And then I set up internal facilities for TBWA. And though that is now called EG Plus, it was just called EG at the time, eGraphics at the time. And then when digital came to the fore, I set up internal digital facilities for brands and agencies. And one in particular was white labeled as Addictive Pixel, and that was within BBH. And that was all about demystifying digital, which sounds odd now to say, but in those days, for creative agencies, they saw a split between themselves and digital agencies.
Yeah.
And I encouraged them to see that differently. And that relationship with BBH worked really well, being really close to the creatives, taking, the engineers to the architects, I called it, and sitting them within the creative departments. And it worked really well. Being close to the brief again, worked well.
What was it like working at BBH in those days?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, in those days, digital, we were really pushing it to the limits. But because we were within the creative department, it allowed us to keep the limits to 99.9%.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, I feel that a lot of creative agencies were going beyond the possible. And I always talk about the new possible and the possible. So basically, we would make sure that no concept was delivered to a brand or shown to a brand that wasn't possible technically, or possible within the brief or the timeline. So there were no disappointments, as I say, if we're going to Margate, let's make it the best day out in Margate. Let's not talk about Miami.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you had like a really impressive career, and you've obviously done a lot of things over that time. Was it an easy journey, or what were some of the tougher moments, would you say?
It was a long one, as you can tell, if I look at my face. But no, I don't think it's ever easy. I think staying relevant and evolving is the most important thing. And that's something you have to do every day, and more so today, to be honest, than ever. with the seismic changes that AI is bringing.
Yes.
Once you think you've got a grip of it, it's evolved itself, and of course you have to keep up with it. But again, I think that with any new technology, you have to understand that it has to complement what you're doing. It shouldn't lead what you're doing. And even though, as my father used to say, you should never let your lack of ability your ability to execute compromise your concept. But
Mm.
on the other hand, you shouldn't evolve or revolve your concept around technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
It should always be the other way around. So yeah, evolving and being relevant in the moment, right now, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah. Do you think there's always been that challenge to stay relevant? Or certainly as your period, isn't it? Because you've obviously been through a lot of digital changes as well.
Yes, yes. I mean, my own illustration style was superseded by 3D.
Of
What
course, yeah.
hyper-real illustration was what you would now call 3D.
Yeah.
I had stopped executing or practicing as an illustrator when that technology came along.
Mm.
But I did find that sitting with 3D artists in the early days, mid 90s, late 90s, um, I could help by helping them add imperfection because I understood that when I was illustrating in a photo real way, that to make something look real, you had to add imperfection because imperfection is reality.
Yeah, interesting.
And especially with AI right now, everybody goes on about it looks too perfect, um, or it looks too shiny.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key, adding grain, desaturation of color, adding imperfection. And sometimes, after a 3D artist may have taken days, to create something and absolutely technically accurate to the product. Adding imperfections actually is always something that I've, been a great practice, of bringing that to the subject because otherwise it looks sterile
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people don't, that people aren't perfect, so they don't like seeing things that are sterile.
It's really interesting, isn't it? So being perfectly imperfect is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. Imperfection is reality. Look, here we go. This is a good example of
I
that.
can, I can, I can join you on that one.
Well, there you
As
go.
yeah, as I say, like there's more soul in imperfection.
Absolutely, absolutely. It feels comfortable. You feel comforted by it, and I think in our industry, when a consumer sees an ad and they may not be able to point at what's wrong, but they
Yeah.
would feel that it's
Yes.
wrong.
Yes.
And I think that is, and when we talk about advertising evoking emotions, we want them to be positive.
Yeah.
Whether that you're making somebody cry, that
Yeah.
can still have a positive impact.
Yes.
But if you're making them feel uncomfortable by seeing something that doesn't feel quite right to them,
Yes.
then you've lost them.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's so important to present, work which is comfortable. They feel comfortable looking at. And as John Haggerty says, and I totally agree about the 80% ideation, 80% execution.
Mm. Yeah.
A really good idea executed badly is a bad idea, and equally the other way around. You can't execute beautifully a bad idea and make it good. It's a balance,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and that imperfection or reality or an image which looks comfortable to the viewer
Yeah.
helps that.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the biggest pressures facing people in the industry today?
Um, I think that there's this ever increasing landscape of media landscape.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the actual formats are ever decreasing. So getting what we used to call a big idea into a very small space is rather difficult. And copy when people are looking mostly on their phone, ads are on a screen of any sort. we often see, for example, long copy ads being shown on LinkedIn, and I love to look at them, and I'll zoom in, and literally I have to zoom in to read the copy, and then when I've zoomed in and on my phone, I have to scroll. I have to scroll to read it
Yeah, yeah,
because there's so much of it. And of course, in a broadsheet newspaper, you know, it was a long copy was great. You
yeah,
could read it, but in a small, tiny social media ad, copy that doesn't work so well. So we have to find a new way of expressing our ideas across all media channels. And I think it's, a time where speed seems to be important, and I can't get my head around that, I'll be honest with you. Always on, I understand that 100%, where we have a continuous stream of communication with our audience. But I think we have to slow down to keep up just right now.
hmm. So
Because unless we slow, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I was going to say, unless you slow down the ideation process a little to allow a creative to be able to express their concept across all media channels well,
Yeah,
for it to work hard well,
yeah,
you have to slow down. You have to give them time.
yeah,
And time is a precious commodity, and you can't buy it.
mm,
But what we're trying to do, and when I was talking about the demystification of digital, is to demystify AI.
yeah,
And when I mean demystify it, I don't mean explain to people how it works. I don't think that's necessary to understand how it works, but understand what it can do for you. And I would always say to allow it in. I often talk about it as the fifth person in the room if there were only four people in the room, because it will come up with things that you didn't expect when you're using it for pre-visualization, for example. And to consider what is fed back to you, but equally taking it out of the ideation process and into the more vertical processes that may come before ideation and after ideation. In production, definitely post-production, and most definitely adaptation,
yeah,
that I would always champion, and we champion, that you give back some of that time saved back into the ideation phase, giving the creative more time, as I said, to craft their concept. So, for example, say we had let's go old school and say a TV piece,
yeah,
and then you were crafting it for digital and social. So it's equally balanced and weighted.
mm,
Unless you do that, you're going to get a great TV piece and then weak digital, weak social,
yeah,
weak out of home. And it doesn't mean the concept has to change. It's the way it's translated
mm,
has to still resonate, and that needs time. That takes time.
yeah,
So I don't I talk about time saving, but I talk about the redistribution of time a lot and giving it back. So if there was an average 100-unit timeline and 100 units of cost, a brand would still be paying the same, but we would be able to spend more time in ideation than we would before by saving time pre and post ideation
yeah,
using new technologies and better communication, working with your, you know, post production partners more closely.
yeah,
And as I've tried to do from day one, as I expressed earlier, to work closer with creatives while they're pre-thinking, they're thinking.
mm,
So you become prepared for production process, post-production process, and you can equally help fuel the creative phase by suggesting ways of execution, which helps a creative visualize their concept before they get to the point of production. So again, rather than vertical processes laying down production and post-production into the creative phase, because unless a creative is all fully aware, and there are now so many more opportunities when it comes to the method of execution, unless they're fully aware, it could restrict their thinking.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
shouldn't over influence it, but it should fuel it. It should fuel it. It should stimulate it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a good way of working.
So what are you up to now then? So you it's all sounds really great, and so I think one of the big pressures is that we have less. It seems like we've got more media channels to fill, more space to fill, but we've got less time to do it. So therefore, less time to create the ideas, to think of the ideas, and to actually execute the ideas. So obviously, the quality is going down of ideation, quality is going down. The execution phase is arguably going down. What is it? What's the solution? Like, what would you say that could be done, and
Um,
how can AI help that?
yeah, I think, as I said, working closer with creatives and making them aware of what I would call the new possible when it comes to execution.
Yeah,
Um, I think trying to slow down the ideation phase to give it more thinking time.
yeah,
And creativity is something you don't just turn on. You can't come in Monday morning and say, be creative to somebody.
yeah,
Um, the most creative moments come when you're not thinking at all. Your brain's always active. And actually, when you're physically inactive, it's often when you're most creative.
yeah.
So understanding that and bringing back an environment where creators can be just that, creative,
Mm,
is, I think, the most important. We can we can speed the process when it comes to production and post-production, but not encouraging that. But at least the time saved being regifted back to ideation, I think, is really a good thing. I mean, the other thing we see in the industry, and I think there's a lot of theories out there about why big network agencies aren't working anymore. But if we maybe just say that creativity isn't their focus,
mm,
is the cause of that implosion. We're equally seeing a lot of displaced creatives and producers and project managers, etc., being released into the market
yeah,
when they're offshoring production, um, which I don't think actually is helping the cause at all. And again, I won't get into the details of that or the theories around that, but we're equally trying to support displaced creatives and others by help they can plug into us and we can fill the gaps that they have. So if they want to approach a brand with a more robust offering, but an offering which is totally transparent, um, obviously more economic
mm,
and hopefully effective, again, with the same timeline and budget, a lot more can be achieved by working with somebody, and we call it, we're the light bulb in the fridge. We only are charging when you've got the door open and not when it's closed. But equally importantly, if we're working upstream with a creative team as individuals or within a startup, the same as we would have done in the past, it means we're prepared. So when it comes to us being engaged after having been involved in maybe a consultative role, when it comes to methods of execution, when the door is opened and the light bulb does go on and we start charging, we're ready.
mm,
We're prepared. We've sought out, we've curated a team um, of creative executors. It could be illustrators, it could be photographers, videographers, AI artists, retouchers, 3D artists, etc., etc. And we are ready. And the concepts that's been sold in is doable technically in the timeline and for the budget because we've been involved from day one. And I think this is really, really important. And I think in the past, the attitude of, oh, we can fix it down the line, we can fix it in post, has got to stop. If budgets are getting tighter, we have to make the most of the budgets we have and making sure that we're not fixing things, but we're only enhancing things in production and post production is key. Because if we're hitting post production with something which is sub zero, and we're spending a lot of the budget bringing it to zero or +1, rather than hitting post production at +4 and
mm,
taking it to +9 by enhancing it, not fixing stuff, the budget's working harder. So even with, AI aside, we can save time by a lot more pre-thinking, being ready. That makes it more economic for us as a post-production company. It makes it more economic for the ideation phase because we can allow them more time
Yeah.
because we need less time. As I say, AI aside, but with AI assisting in the vertical processes, uh, research, insight, through to adaptation, etc., um, we can be together a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the concepts executed, with craft and ideated with all media channels in mind, hopefully will be more effective and impactful. And
Yeah.
then for the brand, hopefully then it's a positive circle, vicious circle of reinvestment and return on investment. And I think we all understand, we can all moan about marketing budgets getting smaller, but I think we can all understand the environment right now is not great. People aren't spending
Yeah.
as much as they did. And
Yeah.
if they are, they're spending it on things they need to spend it on because of higher fuel prices, say for example. So, we're seeing or we hear a lot about slop being blamed on AI, but I think why not AI, in design slop or, Photoshop slop or 3D slop. The slop comes from the person who's using the software,
Yeah.
not the software.
I'm being
But
under
with more time and consideration,
yeah.
and if a brand needs a bigger market share, with a limited spend by the consumer, they need to stand out. And I think over the years, and I'm requoting many here, that we need to be different again.
Yeah.
Everything's become a bit samey. And I think, if everybody's doing samey and everybody's gotten comfortable doing samey, you only need one brand to be different to stand out. But, I came from an era, you know, um, TBWA, Hello Boys, Wonderbra,
Yeah. Great stuff.
what
Yeah.
you might call risque advertising, but, hugely exciting, not just to work on, but to see. And it's all gone very safe. Um, but, we're seeing the emergence of new breakaway startup agencies or creative studios. I think the word agency has probably got a little bit of a bad name right now. And
Mm.
so creative studios maybe is the term, but who are pushing the boundaries again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was talking to Pointy Stick the other day and, saw one of their ads for the Lager brand. Sorry, I can't remember the brand, but it's a great, fantastic ad. Really lovely to see. And, you know, Shannon and Clancy Brennan, starting something new about micro dramas,
Right.
which was huge in China some years ago. And they're bringing that to the fore. It's something new, something fresh, something easier for consumers to engage with
Yeah.
when we have literally micro spans of attention.
Mm.
And we need to fall back in love what we fell in love with in the first place. You know.
Being creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically.
It's got, yeah, it's got to be brought back. It's it kind of sounds silly actually saying that, but yeah, it needs to be back front and center.
Yeah.
And you asked me the other day about, what would advice you'd give to a startup agency, you know, or, or, or creative studio, would be creative and focus on that solely. There are so many ways, and we offer different ways of engaging with every other skill set that you need as creatives to execute your ideas. Rather than get bogged down when you're small, and small is good, with worrying about every other skill set you need, just focus on creativity and allow people like ourselves or other partners you may find to help you and literally and really partner with you, not engage vertically, but talk with them during your process.
Mm.
I think that's the way we can get, well, the best way we can use smaller budgets more effectively
Yeah.
is to remove unnecessary layers of cost and process.
Yeah.
And I don't think big network agencies can do that anymore. And you know what? I don't think it's much to do with the people you would find inside the building of a big network agency. It's the people that are above that or outside of that that are influencing that. So to see breakaways, startups, individual creatives are now able to engage with the skill sets they may not want to or can afford to retain
Mm.
via people like ourselves or others, to realize their concept.
Yeah, I think it's like the networks are kind of like they seem. Well, obviously, one is a race to the middle, which is kind of bonkers anyway. But it's also let's do
Yeah,
it faster, cheaper, and more of it. More faster, cheaper is the model, or seems to be what's
yeah,
being happening.
yeah. No, I agree, and I think maybe I don't know where. Maybe it's media that are telling us we need to do that.
More.
There are certainly more media channels, as we spoke about
Mm.
earlier, but I don't see any point in delivering anything faster and cheaper unless if it's weak.
If it's yeah, if it's exactly if it's not making an impact,
We
if it's
won't
not changing.
we won't use we won't use the SIHT word. But there's no point delivering anything faster and for less unless it's great.
Yeah,
And we need to get great back first, and then we can deliver it faster and maybe for less. But even if it was for the same cost, if it was serving the brand better in getting them or delivering a better return on investment, I think they would be okay with the same cost.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
mean,
do
there is a
better.
cost.
Yeah, do better
Sorry.
within the same budget. Do better.
Yes. Yeah. I would always advocate giving away product rather than giving away, doing it cheaper because there is a cost sometimes for saving money.
Yeah,
I think we've all been there, whatever it is, you buy a cheap shirt, it's going to last you a few weeks. If you buy a really expensive one, it could last you years.
yeah,
Um, it's an investment. It's not a cost.
yeah. Very much so. So essentially,
Focus on that.
yeah, and not speed up the thing that should be the slower part, which is the ideation creativity.
Absolutely. I think we've all had reasonably good ideas in 10 minutes, but better ones in a few hours. And I think you need that time to challenge it, beat it up and then go again
Yeah,
and then go again.
yeah,
I mean, when we were in BBH, there were pencils all over the place, and I can't remember exactly the order, but it was good, better, best, or something as you wore the pencil down. And
yeah,
always
yeah,
amused me and could relate to that. I still paint for my own pleasure. There's something for going behind the curtain, behind the camera here now, but I won't show you. But it's there, and I sometimes open the curtain, I stare at it, and I'll see something I didn't see yesterday,
yeah,
and then I'll go in and then play with it.
yeah.
But we need that time,
Yes.
and of course, time is money. We equally understand that, but if we can save some here and here and be allowed to gift it back, this is a conversation I really like to have with brands, and I think new agency startups should have those real honest conversations with brands. Don't be scared just because they're your client.
Mm.
You have a duty of care to them, but equally they do to themselves and the agency they choose
Yeah.
to allow them to be able to create great work. That's why they engage them in the first place, isn't it? And often, it's not the case. But, allowed to do their job well, they can have a huge impact on,
Yeah.
on a brand's product. And I think the hardest thing that's always been the case and still is the case is how to build creativity.
Mm.
How do you put a cost on an idea before it's had an impact.
Yeah.
And it's so hard, as I said, you could come up with, Guinness surfers in 10 minutes. I'm sure it didn't take 10 minutes.
I'm pretty sure it did.
And then something else that wasn't quite so great in 10 days. But without the time to breathe and have what I call those random chaotic freedoms that creatives need to explore, discover, challenge, tear up, start again, evolve an idea, it will be doing a disservice to the brand at the end of the day, and they will suffer.
Yeah.
So, you know, bringing production, post-production closer to the concept in the first place helps us prepare, be ready, and create a smoother process. But if we're talking about speed, I think, that's another conversation, but I don't buy it. If we're always on, we're on a merry-go-round anyway. But if you get everybody on the merry-go-round, it appears like everything's standing still.
Yeah.
If you don't involve everybody, and there are some people just seeing things flashing past them, it's very hard to engage with that. But when you're all involved and you're all on the same vehicle and you're all collaborating as one, I think we can then collectively try and slow the processes down. I mean, I know a brand's easiest path, or the path of least resistance for a brand, is a full service offering from an agency. So, they come to one agency, they're getting strategy, ideation, production via partners of the agency or chosen partners of the agency, post-production. Media is rarely within an agency these days. It might be a client's relationship or certainly an agency's relationship, but external. But I'm wondering when brands, when they see the big network agencies imploding, where will they reach to next? Hopefully, the hundreds of smaller agencies that will break away from those larger network agencies. But for the ultimate efficiency, and would they go that far to engage with individual creatives who are engaging with people like ourselves so they can execute globally a campaign as effectively, well, more effectively and more efficiently and more cost effectively than a network agency could, but without the marble-clad atrium that maybe the brand is comforted by. But maybe that era has gone.
I think they get stressed out.
That's not. That's not a.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're paying for it,
Exactly.
and I've owned my own businesses for decades now, and when you offer a new service or set up a new business, you add up all your costs, and all your costs end up on your rate card.
Yeah.
Your rate card is filled with all the costs that you have on a daily basis, and you have to build in downtime and everything else, insurances, rents, rates, entertaining, everything.
Yeah.
But there is so much. We don't talk about the race to the bottom, whether it's using or implementing AI, or all the other, and most importantly, all the other production and post-production methods equally. We don't see it as a race to the bottom. We just call it working smarter. But equally, the working smarter process includes communicating upstream with, at the very least, the creatives that are coming up with the ideas that you'll eventually execute.
Yeah.
And considering within the communication business, sometimes that communication isn't good. And often we're caught out, we're surprised by, we need this tomorrow. You can use AI to do it. And that's not the case. So I think it's the careful consideration of ourselves everybody in the process, what's happening before me, what's happening after me, and the consideration of the application of the new technologies could save creativity, not harm it,
Mm. I think that's the
because it
fit.
can give you back time. It's about redistribution of time
Yeah,
and what we do with that time.
yeah,
I think that's the
totally.
most important.
Because I think that's it.
And the brands will. Go ahead,
So
sorry.
good. So are you saying that? Say I was a creative leader or producer or someone within a big network agency, and so I lose my job or I decide I'm done, I don't want to work like this anymore, it's killing me,
Hmm.
whatever. I'm going to set my own place up. Are you saying that now, with because of the technology and because of the things you're talking about, that I could now compete with the network? So I could go and get, so rather than me having to chase really tiny briefs for years, I could go out and get a big client with a proper brief with good money a lot easier than I could before.
I think, as I said, we created something called just that, create that ever and anon.
Yeah.
When we saw this happening, people either leaving or losing their jobs. So they could plug into us to create what I call the whole.
Mm.
So if they're a creative team, we could become their virtual creative services department and production department. Um, if they had a friendly strategist that they knew, that's great. If they didn't, we could introduce them to
Yeah.
strategy. Um, so yes, they can compete. Um, AI doesn't allow them to compete because it's AI's only got one eye and it doesn't know what
Mm.
good looks like. You need to know what you're looking at
Yeah.
when you're using AI.
Yeah.
But yes, you can use AI to create things faster. It's only better or as good if you know what you're looking at.
Mm.
But I think it's the acceptance and over a period of years gone and going forward, hopefully, that brands will feel more comfortable engaging with collectives, individuals that have plugged into people like us, and there'll be others, I'm sure, in the future, that will allow them to become what you may have called an agency in the past.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, an agency isn't the building that the people are within, it's the people within the building.
Mm.
When they walk out the building, they're no less creative or knowledgeable about production methods if they're a producer than they were when they were in the building.
Yeah.
When they're brought together as a team, we talk about curation, they're curating a team, and that's what I did at BBH with the digital scenario there. The only employers I had were called Mac
Yeah.
or Macy.
Yeah.
They were machines.
Yeah.
And I sat people in front of those machines. And it was about curation. It was about curating the right people. And through the 20 odd machines that I had there, in any one year, I put through 80 skills
Mm.
that sat in front of those machines. And that's the key. When people have this thing about possession or owning things, staff being one of those things, which doesn't really work in the creative industry, I don't think. Because one day you may need somebody different.
Yes.
So I think the business will be a lot more fluid going forward, but it would come together. I see everything in suspension anyway. That's just the way I see things. Um, the ingredients that you then bring together as you open the cupboard or our fridge, you see
Yeah.
ingredients that you need and you pick them and curate them. You create a team. You then orchestrate that team, uh, and then you deliver and they disperse. Um, but to answer your question properly, uh, yes, they can approach brands in a more robust way, as I say, by plugging into people like us. Um, it's up to the brand to trust that.
Yes.
And that's a question I'm throwing it out there to any brands that may listen to this. What is where's the point between being disgruntled with paying for the marble-clad atrium in a big network agency, but not trusting using I'm not saying a small startup, but beyond that, teams that can come together and execute an idea, but fully deliver it to media for a brand globally, adapted, transcreated, translated
Mm.
to media. Where's that threshold? I mean, of course, brands are taking production in-house, they're taking creativity in-house now.
Yeah.
And again, I have my views on that, and that's maybe another conversation. But, I think first and foremost, as you asked earlier about, you know, people leaving an agency and starting their own thing, um, is to bring creativity front and center again. Because without it, as we said, delivering faster and for less, there's no point.
Yeah.
But I think, like a lot of things, as the business evolves, and hopefully evolves, because it needs to, I think, to deconstruct first before it reconstructs itself, brands will have the opportunity to engage with creativity in a different way.
Mm.
And that's what we're trying to offer.
Yeah.
And we're equally still there for network agencies, by the way.
Mm.
We're here to help. But for individual creatives can be brought into, plug into us. And we may be using displaced producers and
Mm.
designers that they may have worked with in their previous agency and bring them together
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
So most importantly, the creative team or teams can focus on what they do best.
Mm.
We take care of the curation, the orchestration, and the management of the team that surrounds them and supports them. The
Yes.
infrastructure that they used to have and were used to in the agency they've just left. So they can focus. I'm just writing up something for somebody, and I'm saying just that, at the end of the process, you would have been given 98% of your time focusing on what you do best,
Yes.
which is creative thinking, ideation,
Yes.
rather than with your new startup, start worrying about production or post-production, and it's getting in the way of your thinking.
Massively so. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. I think that makes 100% sense. It's kind of like if I'm doing my business and I'm worried about doing tax returns and stuff and receipt collection,
yeah.
I want to
Mm,
hire someone who puts an infrastructure around me. So
yeah.
essentially, what you could do is that if you've got extreme talent sitting in the center of the creative brains, the creative minds there, but you can put
Mm,
the infrastructure around them that they did have that enable them to do
yeah.
great stuff. But you can do that independently of that space they came from.
That's exactly. And they will interface with it in the similar way that they did,
Yeah.
allowing them the time and space
Do
to
what they do
have their
best.
thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah, we will be stimulating that process, the ideation process, with the new possible,
yeah,
so they totally understand the extra colors they have in their palette.
yeah,
You know, that's important. Um, but no, absolutely, and equally, if they need an accountant, we have one. So
yeah.
there you go. They can
they're,
have that too.
they're very useful.
Yeah, invoicing is good. Getting paid is
Yeah,
another matter.
yeah. I think that's one of the big fears. If you're going to go alone, is the fear that you're
Mm.
going to be alone. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
I don't. There's so many things that you would not know if you've been brought up in the system. But what you're saying
mm.
is that you don't need to learn everything. You just need to be a master
No,
of your craft. In fact, you can start
yes.
doing your craft again, which you've stopped doing probably.
Well, that case in point. Absolutely
Mm,
right. Absolutely right. I mean, whereas maybe, they're, I don't know, pitching, you know, 10 times in a month as an ECD
yeah.
and not having time to do what they actually love doing.
Yes. Yeah.
I've seen, designers, the best designers I've ever worked with become heads of design and then dying because they're not necessarily a manager of people.
Yes.
That
Totally.
doesn't mean they're a bad person, by the way. It just means
Yeah.
they're not necessarily, that's not their skill.
Yeah.
Uh, Um, so what we take care of the orchestration or the curation on behalf of the creative.
Mm,
The orchestration of all of those people, they come and go.
yeah.
Um, the management of them, obviously. um, all estimates and billing and all of these peripheral activities going on, but around them, they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And I think this is so important that there has to be cross communication. Of course, there would
Mm.
be, and a lot of a huge amount of collaboration, but not the worry.
Yeah.
As you said, um, I'd love to do this, but I don't know about all this other stuff that's
Mm.
around me where I am right now. Well, we demystify that. It's not a mystery to us. We worked in that way for many, many years. I call it the flex to fit model. It's not particularly new now, but it's fairly new when I started working in that way. But to try and help people realize their dream of being creative again
Mm.
is something we're trying to do, and
Yeah.
because we'll enjoy it with them. We're not enjoying what we're doing ourselves right now,
Yeah.
but it's a challenge. I talk to people about it, and somebody said, try and do it, and I was like, yeah, we want to try and do that.
Great. Great.
Um, so yeah, no, get in touch, but equally do your thing, stay
Mm.
creative, and it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. Be creative within the creative industries, not feel like you have to leave the creative industries in order to be
Yeah,
creative.
no, exactly, no, exactly. As you say, it needs to break down. It needs to break down to rebuild itself in
Does.
that sense.
Does. Amazing. Okay, John. Well, thank you for all of that. Fascinating
No,
as ever.
no,
Always,
thank
always,
you.
always love our chats.
No,
So,
no, no, no. Always good. And sorry about all of that. It was quite a lot, wasn't it? But
that is brilliant.
no, 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 it's no enjoyable. And thanks very much
It's a pleasure,
for
mate.
helping us get the message out there. We just want to help,
Brilliant.
as
I
best
can
we can.
tell. I can tell. Great. So everybody, yes, get in touch with John. Details will be below or around this video, or reach out to whoever and on, or contact me or whatever. But whatever you do, do get in touch because he's a smart guy and he's got some cool stuff going on.
Well,
Over and
thanks
out.
for that.
Thanks, John.
Oh
Cheers,
no,
mate.
pleasure. All right, you take care.
You too, mate.
Bye now.
Bye, man.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye bye
Bye.
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 Take care.
Like, subscribe, and comment to show your support.